Hi guys, so my name is Shadi and today I just want to take you through something that I've found so interesting in the Bible, and I've read this story before, but when I read it this morning, it just something came into my heart that I felt like I need to share with you guys. And it's the story of the talents. And some of you have read this story before, and I want you guys just to track with me for a moment because there is something interesting that I learned from this story. Let me read it. The story, you can find the story in the book of Matthew chapter 25, 14 to 30. I'm going to read it in the ESV version. This is what it says. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. So I want you to understand, even as we start this story, is this. This property, these talents belongs to the master, but also the servants belongs to the master. And the master called them and entrusted it to them. No, it was entrusted to them. And this is what it happens. To one, he gave 5 talents. To another, 2, and to another, 1. To each according to his ability. One of the things that I really found so profound in this scripture was this. That the master gave the gifts freely. He gives the talent freely, but not carelessly. The talents were handed to them not just freely, but it was not carelessly. The master had already, he knew why he was giving one 5 and another 3 and another 1. He already knew. He had already assessed the situation. He already knew the condition he already knew their capacity and their ability. And he said he entrusted them based on their ability. This is so interesting. He entrusted them based on their ability. But the question that comes to mind is ability to do what? Ability to do what? And it goes ahead and says, he who had received 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here, I have made 5 talents more. Okay? Interesting. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. Then he went to the second one. The second one came forward and said, he who had been given 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Hence, I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, well done and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, you wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gathered where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers. At my coming, I should have received what was my own with interest. Okay, friends, I want you right now just to think for a moment with me. And I want you to think about the things that the master has already entrusted to you. One of the things that is interesting with this story is that the talents were entrusted. They didn't ask for it. It was just entrusted. It was given to them. And it was not given freely, just freely like that. It was not given carelessly like that. But there was a responsibility that came with them receiving the gifts. When somebody gives you something, when somebody entrusts you something, you have a choice. One of the things that I realized with this story, there was a choice. The guy could have said, you know what, master, I don't think I can handle what you're giving me. I don't think I can handle what you're giving me. So I think I'm not able to do with what you're giving me. And the interesting thing with this story is this. The guy who had 5 at once knew that there was a responsibility. He knew there was responsibility, and the responsibility to him was clear. The responsibility was not to keep the talent safe. The responsibility was to reproduce with what he had. And he knew that if the master has seen that I am worth 5 talents, he has seen that I have the ability to handle 5 talents. And for the master, he didn't just see the ability to handle 5. I want you to understand this. The master knew that this guy has the ability to handle more than 5. But he gave him 5. Because there's a place where we get into our lives where God put us into a place and he wants us to grow regardless of what we already have. He gave him 5. The guy who had 2, he didn't go complaining, saying, oh man, I wish I was given 5 like him. Maybe if I had 5, I'll do more. No. He said, with what I've been given, I'm going to make something out of it. And he went ahead and he made 2 talents. The guy who was given 1 is the guy that interests me. Because the guy who was given 1, he thought that the responsibility was to keep the talent safe. I don't think the responsibility was clear to this guy. Because he thought that the responsibility was to keep the talent safe. And he actually did that. He was faithful keeping the talent safe. But when the master came back and he called them, remember, the gift was given to them freely but not carelessly. The master had something in mind. When he was settling account, the guy who had 5 came and said, Master, you gave me 5. I've made 10. He said, well done, good and faithful servant. He calls him faithful not based on his ability to keep the 5 talents safe. No. He called him faithful based on his ability to reproduce what he was given. And that is something that struck my mind. And I started asking myself, if the master counts faithfulness with my ability to reproduce, then what am I doing with what I have? Is the responsibility clear with what has been handed to me? Maybe for you, it's a job that God has handed to you. Maybe it's not where you really desire to be. Maybe it's not where you think you should be. But God has given you something where you are right now. But is the responsibility clear to you? Do you know that God doesn't just want to give you something for you to be safe? For you to sit and enjoy life? No. God is up to something. God is in the kingdom business. God is entrusting you with something because he knows you have the ability not to just handle what has been handed to you, but to handle more. But your faithfulness will be tested with your ability to put into work what God has already handed to you. The guy who had 2 came back and said, Master, he didn't complain. He didn't say, I wish you gave me more. He didn't say that. He said, Master, I was actually privileged to have 2. But with my 2, I've put them into practice. I've done something with it. I didn't sit back and worry about, I wish I was given like them. No. I put what was given to me into practice. And I've made 2. And the master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. Hear me. Both the guy who had 5 and is coming with 10 on the table, and the guy who had 2 that is coming with 4 on the table, both of them, the master called them good and faithful. So it's not about how much you have. It's not about how much was entrusted to you. No. It's just about what you did with what was entrusted to you. And the guy who was given 1, he came and said, Master, I know you. This is so interesting that this guy is the only guy who came and said, I know you. He's the guy who had actually observed the master, and he knew how the master would react if he loses the 1 talent that he was given. He knew the consequences of losing that 1 talent. So the fear of the consequences of losing what was entrusted to him caused him not to do anything with what was given to him. And that's where most of you are today. You are afraid to do what is right because you are afraid to lose what has been handed to you. Maybe it is a job, maybe it's a responsibility you've been given. You see in your company there's something wrong that people are doing, but you're afraid to speak up because you're wondering, what if I speak up and I lose the job that takes care of my family? What if I speak up and I lose the one thing that God gave me as an opportunity? I can tell you this, that thing was not given to you so that you keep it safe. That responsibility was not given to you just for you to keep it safe. No, 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 no. God expects you to do more with what was given to you. So let me tell you a couple of things that I noted on this story. The first one, that the master had a choice. The master could have woken up that morning and say, I'm going on a journey and I'm taking everything that I have with me because I want it to be safe. The master was not looking for safety because the safest place for his talent was with him. But he entrusted it to the guys that he handpicked. One of the things that you need to realize that these guys were handpicked. He didn't call everyone. No, he handpicked these guys. And he says, you, I'm going to give you 5, you, I'm going to give you 2, and you, I'm going to give you 1, based on your ability. But what the master meant with the ability was not the ability to keep it safe. I want to repeat that again. It was the ability to reproduce with what was given to them. The question that I want to ask you today is this. Let me just ask you this question. God has entrusted you the gift freely, but not carelessly. He has given you freely, but not carelessly. The question that you need to ask yourself today is this. What is the responsibility? Why has God given me the opportunity to be in this company? Why has God given me the opportunity to start this business? It's because He expects you to reproduce. Now you need to ask yourself, reproduce in what? Reproduce in what? As a pastor, I've been entrusted to lead a church, Nairobi Chapel, Syokimau. I've been entrusted by God to lead this church. I need to ask myself, what's the responsibility? Because the responsibility is not just to wake up every morning and go and preach. That's not just the responsibility. There's something that God expects from me. There's something the master expects from me. And not just to keep it safe, but to reproduce. Let me ask you the second question. Why would God give you what He has given you right now? Whereas there are so many other people who are more qualified, who can do that job the best than you. Why would God handpick you and give you 5 talents? And handpick another guy and give them 2 talents? And handpick another guy and give them 1 talent? Is it being unfair? Is this master unfair? He's not unfair. He knows the capacity that we have. But let me tell you something. When the guy made 10, when he came back with 10, the master didn't say, you know what, your capacity was to handle 5, so bring the 5. No. He was entrusted with more. Because I knew that this guy had the capacity, not just to handle 5, but I knew that he had the capacity to handle even 10. And I was right. And the master was there like, I was right with this guy. I knew that he could handle. So give him more. Give him more. And I can tell you this, guys, for free. When you're faithful with what God has given you where you are right now. When you take what God has given you as a huge opportunity, a responsibility to reproduce, then later more will be handed to you. But most of us, we don't operate like that because of a couple of things. Number one, we complain of what we already have. We want more. We complain, oh, I wish I had 5. We complain more, I wish I was in this position. Maybe I could have made a difference. No. God knows you can make a difference where you are. So stop complaining about the things you don't have and start using the things that you have. Reproduce with what you have. If it's a small church, I keep telling my team, God has given us a responsibility right now to be a small church because there is a responsibility of reproducing where we are. And I want to ask you and I challenge you today, with where you are right now, you need to do something about it. The second thing that causes people not to reproduce with what God has given them is their environment. Some are afraid of their environment. They're saying, I wish the environment was conducive for me to do something. I wish the environment was like this for me to do this. No. God already put into consideration all those variables. He already knew the environment. He already knew what will happen, how it will happen. But He entrusted you into that position because He knew that you have the ability to be faithful, to reproduce. The third thing is most of us are afraid to fail. That's the reason why we hid our talents. We are afraid to fail. We are afraid, oh, if I do this, maybe I'll lose everything. No. The master did not give you what he gave you for you to keep it safe. He actually expects us to take the risk. He expects us to take the risk. Guess what? It is his. He has given you freely. But he knew you have the ability. If no one else, whatever place you are today, believes that you have the ability, I want to tell you this today. The master who gave you that gift knows that you have the ability to handle more than you can even imagine. So you just need to put it into practice. You need to put it into practice. One of the things that is interesting about this story is that there was a margin. God knew, the master knew that if I give this guy 10, there's a margin. I know that he can do more. I know that he can make 5, he can make 6, he can make 10 more. I know he has this ability in him. But probably this guy didn't know. Probably he didn't know that he's going to make 10. He just went and started putting it into practice. He started just, he started rolling it out one at a time, and he realized, oh, there's something happening. And that's how God expects you to do. God has given you and has entrusted you with something. Be it a job, and I want you to hear me well. It might be a job or an opportunity or a position. It's just a matter of time. If you want to be entrusted with more, then you need to be faithful with what you already have. And the faithfulness here is not just counted based on security. Because if it was security, the guy who had one came back and said, oh, I hid it. It is safe. Here it is. It is clean the way you gave it to me. The master said, no, you lazy, you wicked. At least you could have put that thing into the bank. I could have made interest out of it. It's not about safety. So why are you afraid to fail? Step out and risk what God has given you. Step out and risk. Make it right. Use your position to advance the kingdom. Use your position to reproduce the kingdom. Use your position to do what God has entrusted you to do in this particular moment. And I want to ask you this very moment to think about the things that God has given you, because they were given freely to you, but it was not carelessly. Maybe there are things that God has given you didn't ask for, but he expects you to be faithful to what he has given you. And today I want you to ask yourself, what will I do with what God has given me? Because God expects me to reproduce. I love this famous quote. It has been quoted severally, that the richest place is in the graveyards. The richest place is in the graveyards. Why? Because there are so many dreams that are buried. There are so many dreams that people never knew that they had that are buried there because they just wanted to be safe. And that's not our goal. Our goal is not just to be safe to the grave. No, our goal is to take risks to advance the kingdom. Our goal is to take risks to advance the kingdom. So with the gift that God has given me right now, I want you to ask yourself, what does God expect me to do? What is the responsibility? What is the responsibility? God has given me this. What is the responsibility? And when you answer that question, now I want you to step out. Step out and risk it. Step out and do what God expects you to do. Because he says, those who are faithful with little, more will be added to them. They will be entrusted with more. They will be entrusted with more. God will give you freely more to you. So friends, I pray that the Lord gives you the courage to step out and do the things that he is calling you to do. I pray that God gives you the boldness to step out and pursue the things God is expecting you to pursue. I pray that God gives you the wisdom to do the things that He has called you to do. I pray that God gives you new opportunities to advance His kingdom today. And friends, I challenge you. You can do this. God already knows you have the ability to handle more. So handle what you have, and more will be added to you. Amen. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. This is just a thing that I felt today, that I was just going through my devotion, and I realized, oh man, this is crazy. This one is just crazy, and I wanted to share with you guys. And it's a challenge to me. I need to step out and do the things that God has called me to do. And I finish by telling you this: you can do more. You just need to step out. You can do more. You just need to step out. Thank you very much, guys. See you in the next video.